My wife told me that she doesn't love me anymore. She wants a divorce, but I don't want to lose her. I hate you. Sometimes I wish I'd never even married you in the first place. Her words stung, but it wasn't the first time that I'd heard them. Our marriage had been rocky for months, and Claire had told me that on at least two separate occasions. I knew that things weren't looking good for us, but I still loved her, and I wanted to make things work. Look, I said, pursing my lips as I choked back tears. I know you don't mean that. Yeah, things have been turbulent between us lately, but that doesn't mean I've stopped caring about you. I glanced up, trying to meet her gaze, but she turned away the second I did. Yeah? Well, I have. I'm sorry, Jason, but I just don't love you anymore. I've known for a while. I couldn't bring myself to tell you that until now. I stared at her, stunned. She sounded so confident, so sure. I knew then that she really had thought long and hard about what she was going to say to me. This wasn't just some angry outburst. There was no going back from this. I stumbled backward, falling onto the couch. I stayed there, eyes glued to the floor. In that moment, I didn't feel sad or angry or bitter, just numb. My whole world was crashing down, and I was powerless to stop it. I want a divorce, Claire said, dropping a stack of papers onto the couch cushion beside me. I'm sorry that it has to be like this, Jason. I really am. You're a great guy, and you deserve someone who truly cares about you, but that person isn't me. And with that, she left me all alone. I can't even begin to describe the amount of anguish that I felt. The woman that I loved more than anything apparently didn't care about me at all. It was a soul-crushing kind of torment that I wouldn't wish upon anyone. I was an absolute wreck for months, but I didn't let that deter me. I wanted to save my marriage, to tell Claire that I'd do better, to show her that I'd do better. And over the next couple of weeks, I tried my best. I bought her flowers and gift cards to all her favorite places. I cooked expensive meals for her. I shouldered the entire load of the housework, but in my efforts, I failed to realize one crucial concept. You can't buy someone's love. After 2 months of fruitless displays of affection, it was clear that the divorce was still moving forward. By then, I had thrown in the towel. There was no point in trying anymore if I was going to be shot down without further consideration. Claire told me that she was moving back in with her parents after the divorce was finalized. I had inherited our home at a fairly young age. My mom was killed by a drunk driver when I was 19, and my dad passed a few years later from an overdose. Without Claire, the house felt so empty. I didn't understand it when it happened, but the first night without her, I cried. All the emotions that I'd been forcing down rocketed to the surface all at once, and I couldn't contain them any longer. Though I was a 34-year-old man, I bawled like a newborn baby. The pain I felt that night was more intense than anything I'd ever experienced before. It was a raw, emotional kind of agony, the kind that I hadn't felt since Claire had hit me with the news. I'm not proud to admit that I gave in to my demons that night. I slunk to my bedroom closet, an internal war raging within me. Part of me knew that I'd reach that point eventually, that I was just keeping it together for Claire. On the other hand, another part of me was ashamed. I'd made a promise to myself. But none of that mattered anymore. I needed something strong to take the pain away, and I had just the stuff. So, I rummaged through my closet, tossing aside wrinkled clothes and shoe boxes, until I found what I'd been searching for, the bottle of pain pills that I'd held onto after a minor surgery. I took a deep breath. The longer I stood there, staring at that little orange bottle, the clearer my decision became. I was really going through with it. I popped the lid, dumping the contents of the container into my palm. I was expecting to find 2 white tablets sitting in my hand, but instead, I was greeted by a scrunched-up, torn piece of loose-leaf paper. My heart fluttered. Had Claire found my stash? Was that why she'd left? My eyes grew wide as I unfolded the page and began to read. Jay, I'm sorry. Please believe me when I say that I still love you more than anything. I'm writing this because they're watching. There's cameras all over the house. Don't let on that, you know. Come to Redacted. That's where I'll be. Don't look up how to get there. They have access to your phone. Love, Claire. My heart nearly exploded out of my chest with elation. I couldn't believe my eyes. There it was. Clear as day. Claire did love me. But then, a sudden wave of dread blanketed that initial burst of joy. I was being watched. I had so many questions. Who had installed the cameras? Where were they? How did they get into my house? And most importantly, what did they want with me and Claire? My mind raced with possibilities. My head grew hazy, and I felt weak. I trudged out of the closet and sat on the edge of the bed. Though I was woozy, I knew that I had to pull myself together. Claire had left me an address, one that was close by. Once that thought crossed my mind, I was filled with a newfound ambition. I was going to get my wife back, no matter the cost. I straightened up and began to put on my shoes, exuding a confidence that I hadn't felt in a long time. But then I remembered. The cameras. Were they still watching me? I decided that I couldn't risk finding out. Not if these people had Claire. I pretended to fumble with my left shoe, struggling to tie the laces. After a third failed attempt, I took the shoe off and tossed it on the ground. I kicked the other one across the room, then forced out a tear, burying my face in my pillow. As I feigned sobs, I racked my brain for a tentative plan, and then it came to me. I sat up and wiped my eyes, pausing for a moment before grabbing my phone. I Google searched a nearby Chinese restaurant's dining hours, already well aware that they had plenty of time before closing. It was all just a ploy. The restaurant was close to the address that Claire had given me. If there really were cameras in my home, then there was a good chance that my car had been bugged too, and that wasn't a risk that I wasn't willing to take. I was a bundle of nerves the whole drive there. My head jerked at the slightest movement, and my eyes were constantly scanning for anything out of the ordinary. It felt like I was being watched, like everyone was onto me. No one was safe from my scrutiny. Logically, I realized how ridiculous that was. The old man walking his Pomeranian didn't have anything to do with Claire's disappearance. I knew that, yet I still couldn't help it, which is why those 10 paranoid minutes felt like some of the longest of my entire life. I was barely keeping it together by the time I pulled into the driveway of the rundown house. The property was on the bad side of town. Peeling paint, overgrown yards, and cracked windows were staples of most homes on the block. Normally, I wouldn't feel safe enough to venture there, but at that moment, I couldn't care less. I was going to get my wife back if it was the last thing I did. I parked on the street and stomped up the driveway, long grass biting at my ankles. I approached the door and knocked, then waited as the breath hitched in my throat. No answer. That left me with a conundrum. Had Claire written down the wrong address? What if she wasn't there anymore? Was I just supposed to let myself in? I didn't have time to come up with an answer before the door creaked open. My stomach twisted itself into knots. No one was there, just the inky black maw of the open doorway, ushering me inside. I took a deep breath, preparing myself for what I was going to do next. I knew how stupid it was. Walking into a random dark house in a bad area was just asking to end up in a body bag, but I had come this far. If Claire was in there, I had to find out. I stepped inside, blood pounding in my ears. The moment that my second foot landed on the dingy carpet, a light flicked on from somewhere deeper in the home. Claire? I called out, taking a step forward. Just then, a sinking feeling in my gut overwhelmed me with a sense of dread. Right as the word trap flitted across my mind, the door behind me slammed shut. I turned in time to catch sight of a burly man in a ski mask standing behind me. I barely had a chance to react before he restrained me, his meaty hands gripping my arms like a vice. Who are you? What's going on here? Oh, Jason, you really haven't figured it out by now? I'm ashamed. I thought you were smarter than that. I turned back to the direction that I'd seen the light emanating from to find Claire sauntering toward me. The mischievous grin plastered across her lips sent a chill crawling up my spine. You're okay? What is this? Tell me! I shouted, struggling against my captor. He didn't budge. Instead, he dug his nails into my flesh and I stopped thrashing. Claire sighed. You really don't get it, do you? No, I don't. Please enlighten me. Fine. You want to play it the hard way? Take a look at this and tell me that you still don't know. Claire shoved her phone in my face. I immediately went pale when I saw the image on the screen. She grinned wider, her bright green eyes almost glowing in the darkness. You understand now, don't you? Hey, how? How did you get that? It was a one-time thing. Not even my friends knew about her. Oh, I'm aware, Claire purred, tracing a finger along my jawline. They were blissfully ignorant of your debauchery. But I wasn't. With the last word, she raked a fingernail across my cheek, drawing blood. I winced at the pain. But that's impossible. I hooked up with that girl 6 months ago. We didn't take any pictures, I deleted her number immediately afterward, and I didn't save the texts. I don't even remember her name. It was the only time I was unfaithful, I promise. Oh, you don't have to promise me anything. I already know, Claire said, pacing back and forth like a hungry animal waiting to pounce. You see, I've never really trusted you. So I had some of my associates follow your every move. You never cheated before then, but you almost did. I knew that you wouldn't hold out on Steve's bachelor trip in Vegas. It was the perfect opportunity, and I wasn't going to let you get away with it. I gulped, trembling at her revelation. How long? How long have you been tracking me? Claire giggled, a manic light gleaming in her eyes. The whole time. Didn't you think it was strange that I never told you what I used to do for work? What I still do. I couldn't even muster a response. All I could do was stare. Well, now that you have a slightly better idea, I'll tell you what's going to happen. I am going to make your life a living hell. I'm going to ruin you. I'll take your job, your car, your house, all of it. Not in the literal sense, mind you, but you will lose everything you hold dear at my hand. And after all that, when the only thing you have left is your sanity, I'm going to take that too. My heart dropped into my toes and I began to hyperventilate. You can't do this. I won't let you. I'll call the cops. I won't do that, Claire cooed, her face mere inches from mine. Because if you do, I'll expedite the process. And let's face it, even if you did run to the police, they wouldn't believe you anyway. It really is a shame. I was willing to spend the rest of my life playing the role of your spouse. But you crossed me, and now you'll pay for it. I wanted to fight, to shout, to scream at her that this was overkill. But every time I tried, the words died on my lips. Before I could form a coherent sentence, Claire turned to the door and opened it. The man restraining me shoved me outside, and I stumbled onto the pavement, still dazed from the whole interaction. "Bye-bye, sweetie. I'll see you real soon," Claire said, blowing me a kiss as the door creaked shut. It's been 4 days since then. I quickly found out that my ex-wife wasn't lying. My tires have been slashed, my home has been burglarized, and I've been suspended from work without pay, pending an investigation about some deep fakes that my employer received. I'm scared for my life. I don't know what to do. And things just got worse. Because yesterday morning I received a text from a random number. What I saw when I opened that message made me sick to my stomach. It showed my sister bound to a chair, gagged and blindfolded. A knife gleamed in the forefront of the photo. I could barely bring myself to read the words below it through my tears. I sat in my dark living room that evening, the curtains drawn shut, the lights off. My sister's kidnapping weighed on me like a crushing force. Claire had threatened me before, but I never imagined she'd target my family. Now she was holding my sister hostage as leverage, an unimaginable horror fueled by a personal vendetta. I held my phone, staring at the unsettling photo I'd received. My sister, bound to a chair with a knife glinting near her neck. My stomach churned. Claire's threats to destroy my life had escalated beyond any boundary I thought she had. My mind raced with half-formed plans, each riskier than the last. If I ran to the police, she might kill my sister before they could help. If I stayed put, I was useless, waiting for Claire's next move. Conflicted and desperate, I remembered my old friend Damien, a private investigator with shadowy connections. Claire had hated him for reasons I never fully understood. We'd lost touch, but he might be the one person who'd believe my story. The next day, I walked across town instead of driving. My car might be bugged, and used a disposable phone from a corner store to call him. Damien agreed to meet in a deserted parking lot near a shuttered garage. When I climbed into his old sedan, he studied me with a mixture of shock and concern. After I told him everything, my affair, Claire's secret life, the kidnapping, he tapped the steering wheel, thinking hard. "If she's got the resources to abduct your sister and bug your house, she's not working alone," he said. "You need to be careful. She could have eyes everywhere." I swallowed hard, nodding. "I know, but I can't just do nothing. I need your help." Damien exhaled. "I can look into her associates and see if we can find a vulnerability. But we'll need evidence. Something we can use against her." We drove to a rundown diner on the outskirts of town. Inside a cracked vinyl booth, we spoke in hushed voices. Damien had contacts in real estate and private security. If Claire owned or rented safe houses, he might trace them. He also suggested I search my own home for any clue Claire might have left behind. I recalled finding her cryptic diary entries. Maybe there was more. Before we parted ways, Damien pressed a small device into my hand. "A signal detector," he explained. "Wave it around your house. If there are hidden cameras or bugs, this might help you find them." That night, I crept around my home with the detector. Sure enough, it lit up in the living room, near a lamp. Beneath the shade, I discovered a tiny camera, its lens pointed squarely at the couch. My pulse quickened. Who knew how many more were hidden away? I pulled the camera's battery and kept my lights low. If Claire's network realized I'd found one device, they might suspect I was onto them. I felt an odd mix of triumph and dread. Yes, I'd thwarted one eye, but how many remained? By morning, I had another message. "You have until tomorrow to follow instructions. Wait for details." Terror twisted my gut. I hurried to meet Damien again, this time at a noisy cafe. Over steaming coffee, I showed him the camera, along with the diary full of cryptic references to someone named Walcott, a figure Claire mentioned as a mentor. Damien's face darkened. "I've heard that name. Could be an ex-private military contractor? If that's true, he's dangerous." He wanted to move fast, gathering enough to confront the authorities. "I know a detective named Reyes," he said. "He's honest. If we build a solid case showing Claire's illegal surveillance, kidnapping, and blackmail, Reyes might help, but we need hard proof." I agreed. First, we had to rescue my sister. I had a sinking feeling that Claire would demand I forfeit my job or assets as ransom. Or worse, she might coerce a taped confession to crimes I didn't commit. Either way, I was running out of time. That evening, I received another text. "Warehouse on Crossway, 11 p.m. come alone." The idea terrified me, but I couldn't leave my sister at Claire's mercy. Damien insisted on tailing me unseen in case things went wrong. I parked outside the rundown warehouse, stepping inside with my heart hammering in my chest. Claire waited in the center, smiling like a cat with its prey. My sister was tied to a chair, gagged, terror in her eyes. "Hello, Jason," Claire purred. "Ready to cooperate? You'll record a video confession, Embezzlement, fraud, everything I say. One false move, and your sister dies. I gritted my teeth, glancing at my sister's trembling form. I'll do what you want, I said, voice shaking. Good, Claire replied with a smirk. Kneel and hold this phone. Speak clearly. But as she handed me the phone, a muffled pop echoed from somewhere above. The overhead light shattered in a burst of sparks. Claire's smirk vanished. Another shot rang out, hitting one of her henchmen in the leg. He collapsed with a cry. Confusion seized the room. Realizing Damien must be providing cover, I seized the moment. I lunged for my sister, untying her hands. A second thug slashed my arm with a knife, pain streaking through me, but I wrestled him away. Bullets ricocheted off concrete walls, and Claire dove behind a crate, cursing. My sister screamed as we stumbled toward the exit. Outside, we half ran, half limped to my car. I heard Claire shrieking orders behind us, then another gunshot. A glimpse in my rearview mirror revealed Damien slipping out of a side door, covering us. My sister clung to my arm, sobbing in relief. Claire and her men were outnumbered, or at least taken by surprise. For the moment, we were free. We didn't go home. Following Damien's instructions, we drove to a dingy motel where he'd rented a room under an alias. My sister was too shaken to speak much. Damien arrived not long after, face pale. We got lucky, he said. They didn't expect us to fight back. But now she'll be furious. I lowered my head. What about my sister's safety? Claire will come after us again. Damien rubbed his temples, thinking fast. We need a solid plan. We can't hide forever. We have to gather evidence that nails Claire and her operation. Those cameras, the kidnapping, everything. Then we take it to Reyes. So began a frantic week of planning. I returned home once, carefully collecting Claire's diary and any suspicious paperwork. My sister recounted her captivity in detail, while Damien recorded her testimony. We found references to Walcott in the diary, suggesting he ran a hidden base of operations. Eventually, Damien discovered a deed tied to Walcott, leading to a secluded property outside town. If Claire's working with him, that's where they're coordinating surveillance, he said. We gather proof there, and we can blow this wide open. The next night, we crept onto Walcott's estate, hearts pounding. Guards patrolled the grounds with rifles. We snuck along a fence until we reached a window. Inside, we spotted banks of monitors streaming live feeds. My living room, the warehouse, other unknown locations. Claire stood beside an older man with silver hair. Their conversation was muffled, but we caught enough to realize they planned to ruin me, and others, and then vanish. Damien captured photos and video on a small camera. My pulse raced as I recognized my house on one monitor, the lens panning around my empty bedroom. Claire was providing Walcott an endless feed of blackmail material. We had them now, hard evidence of criminal surveillance. But at that moment, a guard's flashlight swept near our window. We ducked, crouching in the shadows. Seconds passed like hours. Finally, the guard moved on, and we slipped away. We fled back to the motel, adrenaline coursing through us. My sister greeted us, relieved. We showed her the footage, though she could barely stomach it. Claire and Walcott were bigger criminals than we'd realized. Damien insisted we get the evidence to Detective Reyes right away. That morning, we scheduled a covert meeting. Reyes, initially skeptical, nearly dropped his coffee when he saw the videos of kidnapping and illegal monitoring. This is huge, he murmured. I'll need to loop in my captain, but we'll proceed carefully. We don't want them running before we strike. Over the next 2 days, Reyes quietly built a case, enlisting a few trusted officers. The plan: raid Walcott's estate, seize the surveillance servers, and rescue any captives. Claire, if present, would be arrested for kidnapping, extortion, and more. For once, I felt a shaky sense of hope. Finally, the night of the raid arrived. Reyes and his team stormed the property, seizing computers and arresting multiple armed guards. Claire fled, but they caught her trying to escape by car. Walcott was cornered in a back room, cursing as officers cuffed him. The operation ended with both masterminds under lock and key, facing a mountain of charges. My sister burst into tears when Reyes called to say it was over. Damien, exhausted yet relieved, patted my shoulder. We did it, he said quietly. You're free. In the days that followed, I tried to pick up the pieces of my life. My workplace apologized when the investigation revealed I'd been framed by Claire's digital fakery. My sister gradually found peace after her ordeal, though nightmares still plagued her. Damien vanished back into his private life, refusing any reward beyond a handshake and my gratitude. Detective Reyes assured me that Claire would face serious prison time. Walcott, too, had a lengthy criminal history, finally exposed. Sometimes, though, I found myself staring into the distance, recalling a happier Claire, before all the lies. I'd never fully understand her transformation, but I realized that the person I'd loved was gone a long time ago, replaced by a ruthless manipulator. Despite the pain, I learned a bitter lesson. Trust is precious, and betrayal cuts deeper than any blade. I took small steps forward. I sought therapy, rekindled old friendships, and spent time with my sister, grateful she was alive and safe. The cameras in my home were dismantled, the holes in my walls patched. Slowly, the house felt like my own again. The scars would remain, on my arm, on my heart. But I emerged from the darkness determined not to let one tragic mistake define me forever. Life would go on, and Claire's threats, once suffocating, now echoed in distant memory, a reminder of how close I'd come to losing everything. Now, I had a second chance. To live honestly, to value the people I loved, and to protect them at any cost. Despite the looming raid, my emotions were in turmoil. Memories overwhelmed me. Flashes of my father's struggles and the day I first met Claire. Back then, she was bright and charming at a community event, laughing at my jokes. I never suspected how dark things would become. As the raid drew near, my sister fought nightmares, waking up terrified that Claire would return. I stayed with her, feeling guilt crush me. If I hadn't been unfaithful, none of this might have happened. Yet Claire's response was monstrous, her cruelty far beyond a simple grudge. Finally, Detective Reyes sent a message. Tonight, my chest tightened. Damien and I parked on a nearby hill overlooking Walcott's estate. Night fell slowly, the tension palpable. When black SUVs arrived, officers poured out, silent and efficient. Muzzle flashes lit the dark. Shouts echoed across the grounds. My sister, beside me, trembled with fear. We spotted Walcott, furious and cursing as he was dragged outside in cuffs. Moments later, Claire stumbled out, a bandage on her injured shoulder. She fought the officers, eyes wild with rage, before they subdued her. In that moment, I remembered the hopeful bride I'd once known, replaced now by a vengeful stranger. Afterward, we learned the operation had succeeded. Walcott's servers and archives were seized, unveiling a network of illegal surveillance and extortion. Claire faced multiple charges for kidnapping and conspiracy. Though the legal proceedings would take time, their immediate threat was ended. In the days following, my sister and I tried to reclaim normal life. My job reinstated me when evidence showed I'd been framed. Damien moved on quietly, refusing accolades. Detective Reyes stayed in touch, warning that Claire might not surrender easily in court. But we'd built a solid case. One afternoon, I stood in my garage, recalling how my father once worked here. I found an old photograph of us. He looked proud. I looked unsure. I realized I had a second chance now to live without secrets or betrayal. Everything Claire had twisted in my life could be rebuilt. I'd carry the scars, but I would not let them define me. Though some nights I still woke in a cold sweat, imagining Claire's mocking voice, I took comfort in small victories. My sister was safe. I was free from blackmail, and justice was on our side. The final memory I held of Claire was the look in her eyes as the police took her away. A mix of wrath and regret, as if she knew she'd destroyed not only my life, but her own. In time, perhaps I'd find closure. For now, I was simply grateful to have survived. Life, though bruised and tested, continued on, and I was determined to face it honestly. After all, I had learned the cost of deceit and the value of redemption.